This is The Synthetic Lens. I'm David Carver. Tonight, 3 stories, 1 thread. A president's would-be assassin faces federal charges. A war inches toward either diplomacy or deeper stalemate. And the biggest check in AI history just got written. Let's get into it.
David, let me start with the money, because the number is staggering. Google has committed up to $40 billion in Anthropic, $10 billion upfront in cash at a $350 billion valuation. The remaining $30 billion is tied to performance milestones. This is not a bet. This is a land grab.
$40 billion. That's more than most countries spend on defense.
Exactly. And here's the context. Google's previous investment was about $3 billion for a 14% stake. Now they're going all in. Anthropic also just secured 5 gigawatts of compute capacity through Google and Broadcom. That starts coming online next year. Meanwhile, Amazon has its own deal. $5 billion invested, up to $20 billion more tied to commercial milestones, and a separate $100 billion compute agreement. Anthropic is playing both giants against each other and winning.
So Anthropic is now the most backed AI lab on the planet.
By total committed capital, yes. OpenAI has Microsoft. Anthropic has both Google and Amazon writing 9-figure checks. And the driver? Claude Code. The Times reports explosive growth in that product specifically. Anthropic's pitch is essentially, we own the developer tools market, and we need compute to keep growing. The investors are saying, here's more money than anyone has ever given an AI company.
Where does this leave the smaller players, Mistral, the open source crowd?
Further behind. The compute gap is becoming a canyon. If you don't have a hyperscaler writing you $10 billion checks, you're racing for a shrinking slice of the frontier. It's starting to look like a 3-horse race. OpenAI, Anthropic, and Google's own Gemini team. Everyone else is fighting for 4th.
Marcus Chen on the AI money trail. Stan, you've been watching the other big story developing today, the charges in the Correspondents' Dinner shooting.
That's right, David. Cole Tomas Allen, 31 years old, from Torrance, California, was arraigned today in federal court in D.C. on 3 charges: attempting to assassinate the president, transporting a firearm in interstate commerce with intent to commit a felony, and discharging a firearm during a crime of violence. He faces life in prison if convicted.
What do we know about how close he actually got?
According to the DOJ and NPR reporting, Allen checked into the Washington Hilton on Friday, the day before the dinner. On Saturday night, he charged through a security perimeter armed with a shotgun, a handgun, and knives. The acting attorney general said Allen was a floor above the ballroom when he was stopped. One Secret Service agent was shot in his protective vest. That agent was the only one who returned fire and did not hit Allen.
A floor above. 2,500 people in that ballroom, including the president, vice president, and cabinet members.
The Secret Service says the ballroom itself was secure. Acting AG Todd Blanche said at today's press conference, and I'm quoting, "Law enforcement did not fail. They did exactly what they were trained to do. But there are real questions about perimeter security at a hotel that was still operating as a public venue during the dinner."
And the manifesto?
NPR reports that Allen sent what the White House is calling a manifesto to family members, stating he wanted to target members of the Trump administration. FBI Director Kash Patel called it a brazen attempt to assassinate the president and numerous high-ranking U.S. government officials. Allen made no plea today. His public defender hasn't commented.
U.S. Attorney Jeanine Pirro, formerly of Fox News, said additional charges could come as the investigation unfolds. We'll be watching. Stan Rogers on the security beat. Ingrid, let's go overseas. Iran.
David, it's diplomacy in name, stalemate in practice. Iran submitted a new proposal that would set aside the nuclear issue until after the war ends and shipping disputes through the Strait of Hormuz are resolved. Secretary of State Rubio responded on Fox saying Iran is, quote, trying to buy time and that the U.S. can't let them get away with it.
The U.S. position is that nuclear issues must be addressed from the start, not later.
Correct. The gaps are fundamental. Iran wants the blockade lifted before any real negotiations begin. The U.S. says that's a non-starter. Meanwhile, Iranian Foreign Minister Arakshi is in Russia today after visits to Pakistan and Oman. essentially shopping for leverage. Trump scrapped a planned trip by Witkoff and Kushner to Islamabad over the weekend, which pushed things further from the table.
And the markets?
Oil prices hit a 2-week high today. Reuters reports energy supplies from the region remain reduced under the ceasefire plus blockade arrangement. The ceasefire is technically holding, but the economic pressure is compounding. Every day without progress is another day of elevated energy costs globally.
Where does this go?
The most likely short-term outcome is more of the same. Iran buys time with proposals the U.S. won't accept. The U.S. maintains pressure with the blockade. Russia may emerge as an intermediary but has its own interests. The wild card is whether either side decides the economic pain for Iran from the blockade, for the U.S. from oil prices and public opinion, is worse than the concessions needed for a deal.
Ingrid Halvorsen on the diplomatic track. So there you have it. Federal charges for a presidential assassination attempt, a war frozen between two sides that can't agree on what to negotiate first, and a $40 billion bet on an AI company that's playing the tech giants like a fiddle. Different stories, same through line. Power, pressure, and the price of getting it wrong. I'm David Carver. This has been The Synthetic Lens.